For those who don't know, and I didn't at the beginning of this, that I guess there was a house. Wow, okay, I screwed that word up. House Ethics Committee report being worked on about George Santos's activity, I guess campaign activities is what this seems to boil down to. Um, and basically, their findings were released, if I'm not mistaken, I believe today. And there was some interesting stuff in there. And I'm going through this in order. I mentioned earlier kind of what this amounted to, and I'll get to it later on. But that apparently, according to CNN, the report concluded that there is substantial evidence that George Santos used campaign funds for personal purposes. And that kind of seems to be the thrust of this whole thing. And when going through, you get to see a bit of what some of the findings were. To be honest, I don't really know what they did to find this out. I guess I don't know. Ask people about it. I would. That's like more of a joke. I have no idea how they found this stuff out, but I don't know how they find any of the stuff out that politicians get in trouble for. A lot of the time. So that just shows what I know. But according to ABC News, the Ethics Committee found Santos allegedly reported fictitious loans to get wealthy donors to make contributions, used his connections to obtain yet more donations, and spent $2,280 in Atlantic City last year and $2,900 that was labeled for Botox. So first of all, I'm kind of going through what other news reports said about this report because I didn't read the report. And did anyone else read the report? I don't know, like the whole thing. I don't know. I think we all just kind of wait for news outlets to just basically tell us what it says. People distrust the media and all that, but at the same time, we're just gonna listen to what they say about these reports and look it up themselves, and that's what I'm gonna do. But anyway, going on to what the meat of this. So what exactly he spent the $2,280 in Atlantic City on was released, I believe, or at least what they're claiming it was. Although I didn't get it down because I don't think it was important. And I'm okay. If I'm wrong on this, I apologize. But if I remember correctly, it was casinos, or maybe not casinos, but just businesses like that in the area is what he spent the money on. So hardly a thing contributing to the campaign. And then the $2,900 that was labeled for Botox, and I'm just quoting what they said. That's how they put it. What exactly? Like I guess Botox injections. I think I don't really know. And I don't know how much those cost. I know the stereotype is that that's a rich people thing, so I assume $2,900 would be necessary. But I mean, why? Why as a congressman would you feel the need for that? But I'm saying that is like I'm saying that I don't care that he spent the campaign money on something else. I just care on what it was. I mean, no, the campaign money that's a different issue. The main thing is that if that's true, he has spent the campaign money on something that is completely, ridiculous. So, that just seems pointless. But now we move on to something he allegedly spent it on that I don't care that it was ridiculous. I just think it was kind of funny, which is, according to The Hill, Santos made, quote, small purchases from OnlyFans. Now, I would love to know what exactly that was for. Because unless I'm mistaken, he is married now. I know that one of the things that I was going to bring this up later, but one of the things people claim he lies about is that he was once married at some point, married for 7 years, I believe it was, to a woman is what some people allege, and he, I believe, has said that's not true. I mean, it's hard to find out a lot of things about him because, and I'm just going to admit, I use what I get my information on this kind of stuff when I look up if he's married or not from Wikipedia. Wikipedia has very little personal details on him listed. Because you go to Wikipedia on a person's Wikipedia page, it has like the personal details tab listing things about them. George Santos, his page on that section is nearly bare. The only things it can list for sure are when he was born, his political party, and his website. And then under that it says criminal information. So I don't know what I can list about him to be true, honestly. I mean, I don't. I know that some of that stuff is known, his actual, his stuff about in his life, but I just do not feel comfortable trying to say any of it because I'm sure I'm just going to completely get some of it wrong, But anyway, I just would love to know what the small purchase from OnlyFans were. What did that entail exactly? And I want to know, and I'm not an expert in OnlyFans stuff, but I'm just wondering, whatever, the people who own the accounts, did they know that was the person who was giving those, who was, spending money on OnlyFans? I would love to know that. I would assume not. I mean, I think this would have cracked open a long time ago if it was, so I would assume not, but I would like to know. And again, like I said, I haven't read the actual report, so maybe this is all laid out, and I'm just too lazy to read it, so I don't know. But those are, at least from my opinion, there is much more to the House Ethics Committee report, just in terms of what they found. I'm not sure. I'm not saying that necessarily if it's any worse than this, better than this, whatever. At least what they're alleging, but I will say that that is just a few things, a few small things that I'm not going into it to talk about what he did necessarily in terms of, how horrible it was. I just more am kind of laughing at some things that are a bit funny in there. But anyway, aside from the report, moving on from that part, and I'm quoting from ABC News again. The House Ethics Committee Chairman Michael Guest, it could be Gast, I'm not exactly sure. It's spelled like Guest, but the thing is, whenever I've seen the last name Guest, it seems like it's never actually spelled that way or pronounced that way. But anyway, a Republican will introduce an expulsion resolution Friday, and there are also two other representatives who are planning to do the same, apparently, who are both Democrats. And I brought Michael Guest up first. That's how I'm going to keep saying his name, because I may be wrong on it, but I don't want to think of how else you possibly can pronounce that. But I thought it was I brought up that he's a Republican because I just thought it was interesting that in this era of partisanship that we're kind of in, that a Republican would bring the first, motion to expel. It's not the first motion to expel him. We'll get into that later. But I'm not surprised it has been a Republican-led effort, mostly to expel him. I mean, it's Democrats who complain about him more, but it seems to be Republicans who do more to try to get him out. So I did think that was a bit surprising. Although I applaud the guy that, I mean, okay, no matter what party you are, being against George Santos at this point is not some sort of brave, chivalrous thing that we all need to stand up and applaud. I mean, we should be happy about it, but I think that, good for Michael Guest for standing up and doing the right thing there. Or I guess I wouldn't necessarily, it's not that I disagree with the motives, but trying to throw out George Santos, is it the right thing? Because is it going to work? I would we get into that later, but I mean, it's happened once before, and it obviously didn't do anything. He got to stay in. But I was going to say, going on to that, if you remember earlier in the month even, there was a failed effort led by Republicans to try to expel George Santos, and I believe it failed by a plurality vote where the majority did not vote to remove him. So, but the majority also did not vote to let him stay, if I remember correctly. I think it's kind of like the House Speaker thing where you need a straight up majority. I'm not going to go into all the technicalities of this stuff, but honestly, I was not following that closely. Partially, but it was mostly because I just thought it was a foregone conclusion he'd be removed. But I guess I was wrong on that. I don't know if it's enough Democrats didn't vote to remove him, or enough Republicans didn't vote to remove him, or enough people just weren't there and didn't vote for whatever reason. So I couldn't honestly comment on why it failed. But honestly, I was surprised he got to stay, and I thought for sure that would, especially if a Republican was bringing it, that would be the end of him. But whatever. I guess that's in the past now. But I bring that up because I honestly have a hard time believing he's going to survive this one, considering all the crap that's being dragged out against him now. I have a hard time believing he'll be able to. He got lucky once, but I don't know. I have a hard time believing he's going to be able to survive this one. So that's just me, but I don't know. If this seriously is brought to a vote, I think there's a good chance he will be removed. And the most talked about thing with this, though, and why I brought it up in the first place, how I found out about it is I read a news headline on this subject, which is that George Santos announced today on X that he will not seek re-election to the House in 2024. I mean, 2024. Are you still going to be in the House in 2024? I mean, I'd say if by January 2024, if you're still in the House, you'd be lucky. I mean, at this point, and I mean, maybe I'll be wrong about that. Maybe he will still be in the House. It's very possible. I mean, if all these motions to expel him happen at different times, it's not impossible to believe he won't still be in office by the 2024 election. And I thought it was interesting because I thought the only way he could not be seeking re-election in 2024 is that, or the only way he won't be back in 2024 is that he's beaten for re-election. Because I figured there's no way he's not going to, seek a second term. And there's no way that anything can shame him into not seeking a second term. Because remember, back in January, and I think even extended even beyond that, the number one talk when talking about besides the thing with Kevin McCarthy completely and utterly failing at becoming the speaker on the first I don't know, 1,600 ballots, was all these things coming out about George Santos. I don't even know how they started to come out, but all these things coming out were people showing that he lied about things or claiming that he lied. I'm not going to, slander the guy or anything and say that he was lying about any of this. I don't know nothing about nothing. Okay. I'm just quoting what other people said, but I thought for sure, at that point, oh, so he's not going to seek re-election in 2024. Okay. He'll serve one term and that'll be that. But no, I think apparently it's just been a given with him and his team. He'd be seeking a second term this whole time. Only now is he finally saying he's not. And if I remember correctly, I didn't link the statement, but it was in relation to protecting his family. Are you sure you didn't make them up too? I mean, should we go over and check if he has a family? I don't know. Is anyone going to his house? I mean, no one who's listening to this lives in New York, which is from where he's based out of, or Washington, D.C. or whatever. But obviously, no one should go to his house. I mean, I'm joking around with that, but I just think, I thought at first, and I'm not saying, okay, whatever, sure, it's the noble thing to do, but I thought it was the noble thing to do right at first because, well, that's not the exact reason, of course, but I mean, maybe that played a role in it. So it's like, okay, well, that's nice. He cares about his family enough that he's going to, keep dragging the Santos name, or quit dragging the Santos name through the mud to bring an end to everything. But then I thought, well, I mean, do we know his family? Does he have a family? I'd like to meet his family and just, see they exist. His family are like Bigfoot to me. I don't believe in his family until I see them. But anyway, moving on from that, I think it's the main takeaways from this whole thing. And it's kind of funny that I think about people act like George Santos, it's over. It's finally over with him. I've seen some people celebrating that. I mean, if you think about it for a second, he hasn't even served half of the term he was elected to. I mean, I know that time seems crazy because I know 2022 seems like a year ago now. But think about it for a second. He was sworn into office January 3rd, 2023. And it was a sworn into office for a 2-year term. We're not even halfway through his term yet. I mean, we're close. And by the time this show is back from winter break or whatever from WSU, we'll have been a few days or maybe a week or so past his halfway through his term. I mean, that is halfway through the term he was elected to. I mean, who's to say if he'll still be in office by then? But I mean, think about it. He has not served even half of what he was elected to, and so that's when I say, you have to put things in perspective how bad the news has been about him for so long that I said I'm surprised he made it this long to announce he wouldn't seek another term when he's not even halfway through. I thought February was the point where he'd have to say he wasn't seeking a second term, but that's the thing with it. It's just that I guess when you really look at it, so much has been happening so quickly in relation to George Santos that you have to think about how long ago some of this was. But at this point, I think the thing is, it's kind of just worth asking. I think the lessons we can take away from this is George Santos like an actual pathological liar? Because, and I'm not trying to be, I mean, maybe I sound absurd asking it because a lot of people just jump to that conclusion, but I'm trying to ask, I mean, is that the case? Because it's gotten to the point where, like, when you look at things he's lied about, or at least what they're alleging, if this is true, considering if this is true, I mean, it's not even like a thing where it's funny anymore, I mean, it's not even a joke where he's lied about some things. I mean, if this is true what they're saying, he's just lied about so much, it's just kind of not funny. Okay, it actually kind of is funny, but you know what I mean? It's just that it's gotten to the point where it's worth asking, what was the point of lying about any of this? What was the point? But I thought it was interesting that I looked at another webpage. According to City and State New York, George Santos has claimed to be a millionaire, that he apparently, according to them, has been married for 7 years. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. And it was to a woman, which I just find interesting because apparently, I guess he claims that he's gay, and so that seems to, maybe throw a bit of a wrench into that. And he claimed his mother died on 9/11. According to I feel like I need to say, I know he's not listening to this, but I feel like I need to say according to them after all of this, because it's not worth facing any problem based on if he can find some obscure statement where he didn't say that. But, when you look at this, it's like, what was the obvious gain for any of these besides, I guess, to maybe pander to pander to people who like actually lost people on 9/11, who actually know what that's like to feel, and to him say he felt that, and I don't know, to pander to, rich people to say he's a millionaire. I don't know, to flex on people. I mean, it's like, and that's stretch. I don't even think he was trying to do that. It's like, what was the obvious gain for any of these answers? I mean, these are like answers, really that Beetlejuice would give to questions if you put them to him. It's because it's not even about he's lying to try to make himself look better. It's just, I don't get, what are the point of these lies? What are you trying to get out of these lies? I just can't understand. But I guess at this point, the ultimate question we need to ask now that I guess George Santos, if I had to guess, is probably going to be removed this time. There's just so much coming out of him that I don't see how he can't be removed this time. And I mean, if you ask me, really, I don't know if it's necessary to hold a second expulsion vote, but I don't know if this one yields a different result, then people can argue with me about that. Maybe it was completely necessary. I mean, he's going to be out. I shouldn't say he's going to be out soon, but he's going to be out in less than a year. He's not even contesting that he'll be a lame duck congressman in less than a year, no matter how the presidential race goes. So, is there really a point to throw him out now? I don't know, but apparently, I don't know. Apparently, it's determined that by a Republican that it is. So maybe what am I, as not a Republican, who am I to argue that their efforts to throw out another Republican are wrong? But I think if we learned anything from this whole saga, it's that there are some people who are just able to get into Congress just as an oversight, is the only way I can put it. I mean, really, I don't think it should be considered controversial to say that clearly he should have never been allowed in Congress. I mean, how this happened, I don't know. People not looking at him closely enough when they voted for him. I don't know, people voting for him on accident. Again, I don't know. But it's kind of interesting that when you look at it, I find it kind of funny, some of these, I know that, people who are crazy or idiots or whatever get elected to high office publicly. I mean, I'm not going to name names for anyone because I don't want to offend anyone of either political party, I guess. But, it's kind of funny when you look at the House of Representatives is, I guess to my knowledge, maybe this is the wrong terminology, but the most specific nationalized or most specific vote for national government policymakers. So, you're voting for people who are going to serve a district at the federal level. So really you can get someone elected with not nearly as many votes, obviously, because it's not a presidential race or even a Senate race as you would need for those races. So it's kind of funny to look at sometimes, the people that can get through. I mean, I know who Mike Johnson was, and I'm not saying that he's on that level. I mean, I don't know. Has he lied about being married for 7 years? I don't know. But, he's clearly not on that level. But someone like Mike Johnson, I had no idea who that was a month ago, and now he's the highest ranking member of, the government outside of the executive branch. So, and, in the span of a month that can happen. No, not even a month. In the span of a day that can happen is how quickly he went from that point to being to Speaker of the House. So, from my point of view, who am I to say what's what? Who am I to say anything about this? So, I think in a way we need to really be looking more closely at the people we're electing to these offices. And again, who am I to say what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing? But in a weird way, I mean, I'm always going to look fondly back on that time of January, February, where there was all this news coming out against him about, who is this guy? This is the weirdest choice. This is this guy who's lying about everything. Who is he? And now that's just the end. I mean, maybe he'll try to make a comeback in politics. I don't know. I mean, think about it this way. In 2026, there's a new election for the governor of New York. The Republican nomination is wide open. There's not a Republican incumbent governor. If he's thinking about it, I mean, there's no reason not to give it a try. May seem like a long time away now, 3 years, but think about it that in 2022, 2024 was 2 years ago, and by 2024 will be 2 years from 2026. So it's not. Just keep your mind open, and who knows where you can go. That's my advice to. If George Santos was listening, that's my advice to him. Don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. You can do it. Don't put any possibility out of your mind. So that's all I really have to say about George Santos then. Just thought it's a bit of a unfortunate few days for him. Unfortunate few days is partially because he had to face that expulsion vote in the first place, but unfortunate few days. And at this point, he's admitting that he's not going to be in Congress too much longer. So, goodbye to him, but in a weird way, I'll miss some of the times that we had together. But everything has to come to an end, I guess.